Hey everyone, I'm Captain Courageous with RPG Retro Reviews, and as you can see, I got Steven Chenault with me from Troll Lord Games. We're going to talk Gary Gygax, Castle Zagyg, and a whole bunch of stuff coming up right here on RPG Retro Reviews. Hey everyone, I'm Captain Courageous from RPG Retro Reviews, and as you can see, I got Steven Chenault with me from Troll Lord Games. How you doing, Steven?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to have you back to the channel. I've been keeping an eye on what you got going over there at Troll Lords, and wow, there's a lot happening. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, there's all kinds of stuff. We've got the Gary Gygax licenses have landed, of course. Some of them are limited editions or limited license with Castle Zagyg and the Hermit and the Gygaxian Fantasy World Series. And of course, we've just released the After Winter Dark Kickstarter has rolled out, and we're fixing to start shipping the Undying War Kickstarter. It's just a lot going on around here.
You kind of caught my eye with that After Winter's Dark Kickstarter. I love the world of Aired. I have that original folio that you guys released many years ago. Very cool. I have the World of Aired, that large tome that you've got in there, which is massive, like 360 pages. But it's a beautiful book. How's the After Winter's Dark going to update the world?
So first, I got to say that's very, very cool. You got that folio edition. We did that when the Codex of Aired first sold out. We did the folio edition after that. We short printed it because we had our own printer. We made a ton of the folios, the actual folio itself, and then we short printed the book so we could just keep them in print, constantly. And that's my favorite version because I'm an old Greyhawk.
Right.
And I had the Greyhawk folio from.
Of course, I do too. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Which was just, probably one of the best RPG supplements that's ever been published. But so the Codex, the newest version of the Codex of Aired, we've taken the second printing. It's a third printing now. It's technically the second with this content, but that gets a little confusing. Anyways, we've basically just taken the content that was in the first and second printing, updated it a little bit, cleaned and edited it, but really gave it a new layout and all new art. We have a ton of new art here, a new cover. So it just really, it's got a new layout too. So it's just really hopping. If you have the older stuff, you're good to go. But if you want all the new, the new bells and whistles, it's definitely in the Codex of Aired.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, I really love After Winter's Dark. A lot of that is German based, right?
Yeah.
Language-wise and what have you, as far as the name of the halflings and the dwarves and all that kind of stuff you have, it's got like a German flair to it, which is a little bit different than...
It's got a heavy influence in it. When I started actually writing all of the Aired material, I was working on my PhD in Austro-Hungarian 19th century history, and I was studying the German language quite a bit. A language I absolutely love. But so it bled into all of the fantasy writing that I was doing.
Absolutely. So I understand you got another Kickstarter getting ready to start for the Hermit.
Yeah, this was big for us. So for those of you who don't know, for those of your listeners who don't know, we were given a limited license by the state of Gary Gygax to publish 3 different products: the Gygaxian Fantasy World Series, the Hermit, and Castle Zagyg Yigsburg. Castle Zagyg Yigsburg, we did a retro version of it. We just reprinted the 2005 version so that people could get something in their hands immediately and see that Gary is back on the scene. But the Hermit is what we're doing next. We're launching that tentatively Monday, but it'll probably be Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. Which will be the 13th or 14th. And the Hermit is an adventure that Gary wrote originally for his game, Legendary Adventures. Once he lost, Dangerous Journeys, I think he did in the middle there. Once Dangerous Journeys was taken from him, or however that played out, he created his own game called Legendary Adventures, and he wrote quite a few adventures for it, and one was The Hermit. Now, we translated it or converted it to 3rd edition and published it in 2002, but it is one of the wildest adventures I have ever played in and read. I mean, it starts so normal.
I saw the blurbs from it that it was a wild adventure, and I was hoping maybe you could fill us in on just a couple of details, but not hold anything.
I want to give.
I know you don't want to give too much away, but
Right. So basically the premise is the king is calling. He wants to go to war, so he's calling his sage council together of all of the, the learned people of his realm. And this hermit, Lodash the Lonely, is one of these. And Lodash is missing. Nobody can find him. The king's, troops can't find him. His wizards can. Nobody can find the hermit. So the characters are tasked with this adventure to find and rescue, if need be, Lodash the Lonely. And it starts off. I'm not going to give you anything away because Gary would racking me on the head. But it starts off as kind of a normal overland. There's a town and a castle. You do a little bit of this. You do a little bit of that. There's some very typical monsters, but it very quickly it just moves into this fantastical, not a pocket dimension, but almost a pocket dimension that involves a pond, a giant crayfish. I mean, it just goes. You could tell when I remember reading it first time when we were first talking about publishing it. You could tell that Gary was just unleashing his imagination and letting it go, and it was really cool. It's a very hard adventure. I will say that. But because Gary, there's no easy wins in Gary's material. So
yep, I'm familiar.
The old school. You're very familiar with that. So, which is good or bad, but it just takes you on a wild ride. And the pond, I will just say this: the pond is, I think, for my money, is the most unique encounter I have ever read, written, or played in. Since I've been playing this hobby since '75 or '76, whenever that was.
You can get a notification on the Kickstarter. I put a notification for myself to get updated, but if you're on Kickstarter, I've got a link in the description for you so that you can get notified when Troy Lloyd's launches their Kickstarter for the Hermit. Okay, so guys, keep that in mind. It's going to be a fun adventure, and that's coming up. So let's talk about Yggsburg.
So Yggsburg, I think, so Gary wrote Yggsburg from cover to cover. And I think it's what is the word? Magnum opus? Is that the word?
That sounds about right. Yeah,
that's about right. He did. He wrote a bunch of stuff for us. Some of it he co-wrote. Some of it he didn't. But 2005, and I have to really kind of look at it. But this thing is so large, and it's all Gary Gygax, and it's so complete. I mean, basically Yggsburg is the town that is somewhat south of Greyhawk in the world of Greyhawk, or Dunfalcon in Gary's later workings and creations. And it's this thriving metropolis that's built between these two rivers. And then there's about the conjunction of two rivers. And then there's, I want to say it's 5 square miles of terrain that he had mapped out that's next to Yggsburg, really between Yggsburg and Greyhawk. And then Greyhawk Castle is right there on the northern edge of the Eastmark. That's called the Eastmark, right on the edge of the Eastmark folio, or the Eastmark region. So Gary did so much detail on this setting. It's basically the city and the environs of Yggsburg. Yggsburg's the name of the city, and then these 5 square miles. So it gives you all the sandbox you could possibly need to go into the Castle Greyhawk and the dungeons of Castle Greyhawk later when those are actually published. He was so passionate about this that when he finished Yggsburg and we were putting it through publication, he immediately shifted from working on the dungeons to working on Yggsburg again. And we went back, I can't remember how many we did, I think it was 5, but he hired some writers to take each neighborhood in Yggsburg and flesh them completely out so that you would know who the baker is in this neighborhood, who the armor, all of it, everything. He wanted it all completely covered. So the detail on Yggsburg was going to be through the roof. We got, I think there was 14 neighborhoods, and we got 5, 6, or 7 books out. I can't remember. I think 5 printed and 7 in PDF or something like that. So the amount of detail that he put into Yggsburg is astounding. If you buy that book now, it's for sale on our website. If you buy that book now, you've got a couple, 2 or 3 years of gaming at your table just from the book. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And what's nice about it is you can take anything like The Hermit or Village of Hamlet or whatever and just drop it right in the Eastmark folio without too much work. It's just really, it's one of my favorite city settings. My buddy Matt Golden, who co-created Castles and Crusades with Davis, he ran us a game in Yggsburg Eastmark must have been 2.5 years. We ran. I had a paladin up to 4th level before he died. But
Oh no.
yeah, I always die. So it's just the way it is. I play like an idiot. So you reap what you sow, I suppose. So.
But yeah, pointy end.
Yeah, exactly. Gygax is just really, really cool. And what we did is so all of this, the estate was left with some debts, and the court seized the property, and this debt has to be paid before it can be turned back over to the Gygax family. So we're dealing with the court at the moment, and we wanted to generate revenue to help pay that debt immediately, and that's why we did Gygax like we did. We did a version of Gygax that is almost an exact replica of the one that we did in 2005 with no editorial changes other than the stock code on the side and the printing on the interior. And we rolled that out, and it has sold and is continuing to sell astoundingly well.
Well, I would love to get my hands on a copy on that. I'm going to have to do that because I'm telling you what, the eBay prices for the original 2005 printing are through the roof. They're insane if you can get your hands on it. So I know a lot of gamers, the chat on that have been looking forward to getting their hands on that book. So I think that's going to be a gift to the gaming community at large, in my opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think that it is. And even you take it's Gary Gygax, it's his magnum opus, the estate, all of that aside, so you don't care about any of that. It is really a solid piece of RPG work that, if you're playing whatever game you're playing, you can sit down and start, have tons and tons of adventure. It's written for Castles and Crusades. That's the game that Gary was writing for when he passed. But conversions are not that difficult from that system.
So what else have we got coming from the estate that you might be able to tell us about?
So we definitely have the Gygaxian Fantasy World series, which, for those who don't know, it was 7 books. It was an open-ended series. There was at least another 3 we were working on, but it was 7 books that basically how-to role-playing. And it's not just a how-to role-play, but one's the world builder, one was the Book of Names, Insidiae was to create adventures, the Canting Crew was how to create city adventures with thieves and rogues and beggar guilds. So the books is just filled with mountains of information that Gary had accumulated over the years and that he had hired done. Like the Book of Names was written by Malcolm Bowers. But the first 3 were first one's written by Gary Gygax, the third one by Gary Gygax, the second one, The World Builder, was written by Gary and Dan Cross. But so these, we've been given the rights to do The Hermit, which will be on Kickstarter next week, and Gygax, and then this Gygaxian Fantasy World series, which we hope to have on Kickstarter by February, early March, some time frame. We're going to do 7 hardcover books, full color, slipcase. We're going to do it really, really, really nice. And I'm jazzed about it. I have to say, in my desk drawer right now is The World Builder. It's probably the book I use the most in writing, designing, and playing role-playing games. I absolutely use The World Builder all the time.
So I got to ask the question then, what about Castle Zagyg itself? Is there anything going to be happening with that as well?
So we have petitioned the court as of about 5-6 weeks ago to get the next round of stuff, and what we're asking for is Castle Zagyg after that. I'm confident, I'm optimistic that this will play out. We've already cut a very sizable check to the estate, so we're showing the court that everybody's support. I got to thank everyone out there who has helped, who has purchased Gygax. A hefty percentage of that goes to the estate, so we can get that debt paid down. And I think that we've at least demonstrated to the court that we're capable of doing it, and if they'll give us more, we can get it paid down even faster. So we went ahead and petitioned for the Castle Zagyg material, the upper works, which we originally published, and then the dungeons beneath it. And we're hoping that before Christmas we have some kind of response from them. And if so, and if it's positive, that will be the next big project.
That's great. So, man, you guys have been really pumping out the material here, all the high quality material stuff that you got going on. What else would you like to talk about before we cut off today? I don't want to keep you too long.
Oh, that's okay. Well, the interesting thing, the OGL.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That was a little bit of an interesting thing.
The OGL dust up, we'll call it, back in January. caused us to reroute quite a bit. And we decided to remove all of the OGL content from Castles and Crusades, and we're retooling all of those books. And while we're doing that, we're retooling the adventures as well. It's not going to change anything in the way the game plays, the way the game's presented. It's just going to change some names like Dispel Magic or what is it? What's the Discover Magic? Whatever.
Right.
Detect Magic. The Detect Magic spell is now Discern Magic. So nothing's really changing. The spells are the same. Format's going to be a little bit different, but we're cleaning the OGL out. So that kind of rerouted everything that we were working on, because we were hammering on the Codex of the Plains was our primary focus, so that we could get a whole bunch of planar stuff out. And then, of course, the Gygax material stepped into it, so that's kind of derailed everything. But the things that we're working on, focusing on the most right now, is the 10th printing of the Player's Handbook, which you'll see without the OGL. And the Monsters and Treasures CKG will come along with that, but as we put the new printings of those books out as well.
Well, still have the homage artwork that you had done a few years ago?
Great. Absolutely. Art stays the same. The only layout that changes will be the spell format. I designed a new kind of literary spell format because I never really liked the way those stat blocks looked. And we're highlighting the important information is highlighted so you can see it very quickly, where it's coming from. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Castles and Crusades is a phenomenal fantasy game. I love that game. If you are a player that likes 5th edition, but you're looking for something a little less crunchy, a little less heroic, more pulp fantasy, then Castles and Crusades is a great way to go. You got your Ascending AC. You've got a lot of similar things. And when you get into the Castle Keeper's Guide, you've got the equivalent of what would have been 3rd edition feats. What do they call it in the Castle Keeper's Guide?
Advantages? I think they call it advantages.
Advantages, yeah. So it's basically like 3rd edition feats. They're very good. There's additional player character information in the Castle Keeper's Guide. I did a review on the Castle Keeper's Guide a few years ago, so I'll put a link for that in the description. You guys can check it out. And I've done an overall view of Castles and Crusades before. The game has been phenomenal for 20 years with very little changes other than editing. And I think they added the class and the half.
And I think we changed the names of the monks' attack abilities and a few other just odd and in things in there that, the game's the same. So we've got a guy at my table that's using the first printing that was published in 2005. So he's, and it's the same game.
Yeah, I love the class and a half option. That's very unique.
It's Mark Sandy. Mark Sandy wrote that. He created that class, and it's a good approach. And this is the nice thing about Castles and Crusade that I don't think a lot of game systems have. And Class and the Half is a perfect example of that. You can kind of tailor your characters the way you want them. Once if you want to start meshing abilities, it's pretty easy to do with those rules that Mark wrote. And then he gave some great guidelines in a book we'll have out next couple of months. I think it's called Expanding Classes, something like that. That'll have all of that stuff kind of written out even more to help people guide it along. I do think that if you play 5th edition, you should definitely, we have the Player's Handbook for free. You can go to the website, download it, check the game out, and give it a shot. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
It plays fast, and it's a lot of fun.
I run a table at Gary Gone of 24 people, and it runs fast. So it's definitely, you can do it.
Yep. Steven, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and coming over here and having a chat with us over here at RPG Retro Reviews. It's always great having you, and I'm really looking forward to the Kickstarters you got coming up with The Hermit.
The Hermit, yep.
And Castle Zagyg.
And the Gygaxian Fantasy Worlds.
The Gygaxian Fantasy Worlds. That is really going to be something special to look forward to. Thank you so much.
Well, David, thank you for having me. I love coming on the show anytime.
Thank you. All right, guys, that's about all I got for you. Please check out the links below. I've got a lot of information for you on Castles Crusades, and it's right here on this channel. You can go and check out those reviews that I've done previously. I'd like to take a moment to thank my patrons for their support. Without them, this channel is just not possible. Please help me out with a like, comment, and share. Subscribe and click the little bell so you get notifications when I upload new content. Please check out the Teespring store, ye old school shop, for some fun gaming swag, t-shirts, carry bags, coffee mugs, and more. Consider supporting me on Patreon as well. If you feel so inclined, send a tip, and you can do so through my PayPal tip jar or Super Thanks right here. A link for everything is in the description, and as always, my friends, may your D20 roll true, and game on.